Discovery and disbelief. The galactic research station Zeta-9 hung silently in the inky void of space, its sleek, crystalline structure glittering against the backdrop of distant stars. Within its transparent walls, a diverse array of alien life forms bustled about, each engaged in their own scientific pursuits. But today, all eyes were fixed on the newly arrived specimens in Observation Chamber 12. Dr. Xylara, the station's lead xenobiologist, peered intently through the chamber's energy field, her four eyes blinking in rapid succession. Her iridescent scales shimmered with a mix of excitement and trepidation as she watched the two human subjects go about their daily routines. "Fascinating," she murmured, her melodic voice tinged with awe. "Simply fascinating." Her assistant, a gelatinous being named Blob, moved closer, forming a makeshift eye stalk to get a better view. "What is it, Doctor? What are they doing now?" Xylara's antenna twitched in agitation. They're consuming dihydrogen monoxide again. In its liquid state, and in such large quantities. Blob's entire form rippled in shock. But that's impossible. Dihydrogen monoxide is a universal solvent. It should be dissolving their internal organs as we speak. The two aliens watched in horrified fascination as Sarah, one of the human subjects, casually lifted a glass of water to her lips and took a long, refreshing drink. Her companion, Mike, was doing the same, seemingly oblivious to the panic they were inducing in their observers. "How are they still alive?" Blob bubbled anxiously. "By all accounts, they should have succumbed to cellular breakdown hours ago." Xylara's scales flickered through a range of colors as she processed this information. "It's not just the dihydrogen monoxide, Blob. Look at their environment. The gravity in that chamber is set to mimic their home world. A crushing 1G. The atmospheric pressure alone should be enough to flatten most species we've encountered." As if to underscore her point, Mike stood up and stretched, his joints popping audibly. He then proceeded to jog in place, barely breaking the sweat under conditions that would have pulverized the bones of lesser beings. "And let's not forget," Xylara continued, her voice dropping to a whisper, "they come from a planet orbiting a yellow dwarf star. The radiation levels they're accustomed to, it's practically a death sentence for most life forms." Blob shuddered, his gelatinous form quivering with a mix of fear and excitement. "Dr. Xylara, do you realize what this means? We may have discovered the most resilient species in the known galaxy." Xylara nodded solemnly, her scales now a deep, thoughtful blue. "Indeed, Blob. But with such resilience comes great responsibility. We must learn more about these humans. Their potential could reshape our understanding of biology itself." As the two aliens continued their observations, Sarah and Mike remained blissfully unaware of the stir they were causing. Sarah had moved on to preparing a meal, chopping vegetables with a sharp knife, an action that caused several of the watching aliens to recoil in horror at the casual handling of such a deadly weapon. "Look!" Blob exclaimed, his form elongating in surprise. "They're subjecting their food to extreme heat before consumption. Is there no end to their disregard for personal safety?" Xylara's antenna quivered with excitement. "Thermal processing of nutrients. Incredible. Their digestive systems must be remarkably adaptable. We must document everything." As the day progressed, the human subjects continued to astonish their alien observers. They exercised vigorously, lifting weights that would have crushed most other species. They exposed themselves to rapid temperature changes, going from a hot shower to an air-conditioned room without ill effects. They even engaged in mock combat scenarios in their leisure time, playing video games that simulated extreme violence, an activity that left many of the pacifistic alien scientists feeling faint. But the real shock came during the evening meal. As Xylara and Blob watched, Mike reached for a small, unassuming bottle on the table. With a casual flick of his wrist, he sprinkled a white, crystalline substance over his food. Alarms blared throughout the observation deck. Xylara's scales turned a pale, sickly green. "No, "It can't be," she gasped. Blob, who had been monitoring the chemical sensors, was in a state of near panic. "Doctor, that substance, it's sodium chloride." The observation deck erupted into chaos. Junior scientists ran in circles, some emitting high-pitched squeals of distress. Others huddled in corners, their appendages wrapped tightly around themselves in fear. Sci-Fi struggled to maintain her composure. Sodium chloride, a corrosive compound formed from a highly reactive alkali metal and a toxic halogen gas. And they're willingly ingesting it. As Mike happily munched on his sodium-laced meal, blissfully unaware of the pandemonium he had caused, Sci-Fi made a decision. Her scales shifted to a determined orange as she turned to address her team. "Colleagues," she announced, her voice cutting through the panic, "we stand on the brink of a revolutionary discovery. These humans, they defy everything we thought we knew about biological limitations. Their resilience, their adaptability, their sheer disregard for what we consider mortal danger. It's unprecedented." She gestured towards the observation chamber, where Sarah was now joining Mike in the consumption of the seasoned meal. "We have a duty to science, nay, to the entire galaxy, to study these remarkable beings, to learn from them, to understand how they can thrive in conditions that would annihilate lesser species." Blob, who had managed to pull himself together, quite literally, oozed forward. "But doctor," he burbled, "how can we possibly study them safely? They're clearly capable of surviving things that would destroy our equipment, maybe even our entire station." Sci-Fi's eyes glinted with determination. "We'll need to design new protocols, upgrade our containment systems, perhaps even reconstruct parts of the station to withstand their unique physiology." She paused, looking around at her still shaken team. "It won't be easy. It may even be dangerous. But the potential benefits to science, to medicine, to our understanding of life itself, they're immeasurable." As the gravity of the situation sank in, the alien scientists gradually calmed down. Excitement began to replace fear. Hypotheses were formed, research proposals hastily drafted. The air buzzed with a new energy, the thrill of discovery, the allure of the unknown. Meanwhile, in their chamber, Sarah and Mike finished their meal, completely oblivious to the scientific revolution they had just ignited. As Mike leaned back in his chair, patting his stomach contentedly, he turned to Sarah with a grin. "You know," he said, "I can't shake the feeling that we're being watched. Isn't that crazy?" Sarah laughed, shaking her head. "Oh, Mike, you and your wild imagination. As if we're interesting enough for anyone to study." As the humans settled in for a quiet evening, the alien scientists prepared for what would undoubtedly be the most exciting and potentially terrifying research project of their careers. The study of humanity had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. Copy Richard seated. Investigation and experimentation. The days following the sodium chloride incident were a flurry of activity aboard the Galactic Research Station Zeta-9. Dr. Sci-Fi had assembled a team of the station's top minds, each specialized in a different field of xenobiology. Their mission: to unravel the mysteries of human physiology. As the team gathered in the newly reinforced laboratory adjacent to the human habitat, Sci-Fi's scales shimmered with anticipation. "Colleagues," she began, her melodious voice tinged with excitement, "today we embark on a journey of discovery unlike any other. Our subjects, the humans, Sarah and Mike, have already demonstrated resilience beyond our wildest expectations. Now we must delve deeper." Blob, who had been promoted to lead research assistant, oozed forward with a holographic display. "We've compiled a list of experiments to test the limits of human capabilities," he burbled. "However, we must proceed with caution. We don't want to alert them to our presence or cause any harm." The first series of tests focused on the humans' remarkable ability to process what the aliens considered to be toxic substances. Under the guise of providing varied meals, the research team introduced a range of compounds into the humans' diet. Dr. Zigzags, The station's biochemist watched in awe as the humans consumed a fruit rich in citric acid. Extraordinary. He chittered, his antennae twitching wildly. Their oral cavities should be dissolving, and yet they seemed to be enjoying it. Indeed, Sarah and Mike were happily sharing an orange, completely unaware that they were sending the alien scientists into a frenzy of note-taking and analysis. Next came tests of physical endurance. The team subtly altered the environmental controls in the human habitat, gradually increasing gravity, temperature, and atmospheric pressure. To their amazement, the humans not only survived but thrived, adapting to each change with remarkable ease. During one particularly strenuous day, when the gravity had been increased to 1.5 g, Mike decided to engage in what he called a workout. The aliens watched in stunned silence as he lifted heavy weights, performed complex calisthenics, and even attempted handstands. "Impossible," whispered Dr. Quicks, the station's physicist, her tentacles coiling tightly around her datapad. The sheer force required to perform these actions under such gravitational stress, it defies all known laws of biomechanics. But it was the humans' cognitive abilities that truly pushed the boundaries of the aliens' understanding. Dr. Synapsia, a neuroscientist with a brain the size of a small planet, devised a series of increasingly complex puzzles and problems, disguised as entertainment for the humans. To her astonishment, Sarah and Mike not only solved the puzzles, but often found creative solutions that the aliens hadn't even considered. Their neural plasticity is off the charts, Dr. Synapsia mused, her brain pulsating with excitement. They're not just solving problems, they're innovating, creating, imagining possibilities that we never even dreamed of. As the days turned into weeks, the alien scientists found themselves constantly surprised by their human subjects. They marveled at the humans' emotional range, their ability to find humor in the strangest situations, and their remarkable capacity for social bonding. One evening, as Sarah and Mike engaged in what they called a movie night, Dr. Xylera made a startling observation. "Look," she exclaimed, pointing at the view screen. "They're willingly exposing themselves to simulated danger and emotional distress." For entertainment, the team watched in fascination as the humans laughed, cried, and gasped their way through a horror film, their physiological responses indicating genuine fear and excitement. "But why?" asked Blob, his gelatinous form rippling with confusion. Why would they deliberately seek out such intense emotional experiences? Dr. Xylera's scales shifted to a thoughtful blue. "Perhaps," she mused, "this is the key to their resilience. By constantly challenging themselves, by seeking out new experiences, even uncomfortable ones, they've evolved to adapt to almost anything." As the experiment progressed, the aliens found themselves not just studying the humans, but learning from them. They began to appreciate the humans' creativity, their ability to find joy in simple things, and their unwavering determination in the face of challenges. One day, while monitoring the humans' vital signs during a particularly intense workout session, Dr. Zixzax made a breakthrough. "Eureka!" he chittered, his entire exoskeleton vibrating with excitement. "I've identified the mechanism that allows them to process toxins so efficiently." The team huddled around his workstation, marveling at the complex chemical pathways displayed on the screen. It was a moment of triumph, a key piece of the puzzle that was human physiology. But their celebration was short-lived. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the station. Red lights flashed, and the station's AI announced in a calm voice, "Warning. Containment breach in Sector 7. Unknown life form detected." Dr. Xylera's scales paled to a ghostly white. Sector 7 was where they kept their most dangerous specimens, creatures so volatile and unpredictable that they were kept in perpetual stasis. As panic began to spread among the research team, Dr. Xylera made a decision that would change the course of their experiment, and potentially the fate of the entire station. "We need help," she declared, her voice cutting through the chaos. "And I know just who can provide it. Blob's eye stalks swiveled towards her in shock. "You don't mean—" Dr. Xylara nodded solemnly. "Yes, Blob. It's time to make contact with the humans." As the alarms continued to wail and the unknown threat loomed, the alien scientists prepared to reveal themselves to Sarah and Mike. Little did they know that this moment would mark the beginning of an unprecedented alliance, one that would push the boundaries of both human and alien understanding, and forge a bond that would reshape the galaxy itself. The stage was set for a clash of worlds, a meeting of minds that would challenge everything both species thought they knew about life, the universe, and their place in it. As Dr. Xylara approached the human habitat, her scales shimmering with a mix of fear and anticipation, she couldn't help but wonder, were they ready for what was to come? And more importantly, was the galaxy ready for humanity? Copy retrieved seeded. Cultural exchange and misunderstandings. The moment Dr. Xylara stepped into the human habitat, time seemed to stand still. Sarah and Mike, who had been engrossed in a heated game of chess, froze mid-move, their eyes widening in shock at the sight of the iridescent, four-eyed alien before them. For a heartbeat, silence reigned. Then, defying all expectations, Mike broke into a wide grin. "I knew it," he exclaimed, pumping his fist in the air. "Aliens are real. Sarah, you owe me $20. Sarah, still slack-jawed, fumbled in her pocket and absently handed Mike a crumpled bill, her eyes never leaving Dr. Xylara. Dr. Xylara's scales cycled through a rainbow of colors as she processed the human's unexpected reaction. Where was the fear? The panic? The existential crisis that the xenopsychologists had predicted? "Greetings, humans," she began, her melodic voice tinged with uncertainty. "I am Dr. Xylara, lead xenobiologist of the Galactic Research Station Zeta-9. We require your assistance in a matter of utmost urgency." To her surprise, it was Sarah who stepped forward, extending a hand. "Nice to meet you, Dr. Xylara. I'm Sarah, and this is Mike. How can we help?" As Dr. Xylara stared at the outstretched hand, Blob oozed into the room, his gelatinous form quivering with excitement. "Oh my," he burbled. "They're even more fascinating up close." Mike's eyes lit up at the sight of Blob. "Whoa, a talking slime mold. This is the coolest thing ever." What followed was a crash course in interspecies communication and cultural exchange. As Dr. Xylara hurriedly explained the situation with the containment breach, the humans listened intently, asking questions that alternately impressed and baffled the alien scientists. "So let me get this straight," Mike said, pacing the room. "You've got some super dangerous alien creature loose on the station, and you need our help to catch it." Dr. Xylara's scales flickered in affirmation. "Precisely. Your species has demonstrated remarkable adaptability and problem-solving skills. We believe you may have insights that could prove invaluable." Sarah, who had been quiet for a while, suddenly spoke up. "Before we agree to anything, I have a question." She fixed Dr. Xylara with a stern look. "Have you been experimenting on us this whole time?" The alien scientist's scales paled, but to her credit, she didn't flinch. "Yes," she admitted, "but I assure you, we took every precaution to ensure your safety and comfort." To everyone's surprise, Sarah burst out laughing. "Oh man, if only my old biology professor could see me now. I'd gone from dissecting frogs to being the frog." As the tension in the room dissipated, the group began to plan their strategy for recapturing the escaped specimen. However, cultural differences and misunderstandings soon became apparent. When Dr. Zixitax suggested using a high-frequency sound emitter to disorient the creature, Mike enthusiastically agreed. "Yeah, let's blast some death metal. That'll confuse anything with ears." The aliens exchanged puzzled looks. "Death metal?" Blob inquired tentatively. Mike grinned and pulled out his smartphone. "Oh boy, are you in for a treat." As the opening riffs of a particularly aggressive metal song blared from the tiny speakers, the alien scientists recoiled in horror. Dr. Xylara's scales turned a sickly green, while Blob's entire form seemed to vibrate in distress. By the cosmic void, Dr. Zixzax chittered, his antennae flattened against his head. You willingly expose yourselves to this auditory assault. Sarah quickly intervened, turning off the music. Maybe we should stick to more conventional methods, she suggested diplomatically. As they continued to brainstorm, more cultural quirks came to light. The humans' casual references to violence in problem-solving. We could always try to lure it into a trap and then whack it. Horrify the pacifistic aliens. Meanwhile, the aliens' suggestion to use complex algorithms to predict the creature's movements left the humans scratching their heads. Despite these hurdles, a plan began to take shape. The humans' out-of-the-box thinking, combined with the aliens' advanced technology, created a strategy that none of them could have devised alone. As they prepared to put their plan into action, Dr. Xylara found herself marveling at the humans' calm in the face of danger. "Aren't you afraid?" she asked as Mike cheerfully rigged up a makeshift trap using materials from around the habitat. Mike shrugged. "Sure, a little. But mostly, I'm excited. How often do you get to help aliens catch a dangerous space monster?" Sarah nodded in agreement. "Plus, fear can be useful. It keeps you alert, makes you think faster." Dr. Synapsia, who had been quietly observing, suddenly perked up. "Fascinating. You're suggesting that negative emotions can have positive effects." This sparked a lively discussion about human psychology, with the aliens hanging on every word as Sarah and Mike explained concepts like fight or flight, stress-induced growth, and thrill-seeking behavior. As they talked, Dr. Xylara realized that they were learning far more about humans through this interaction than they ever could through passive observation. The humans' ability to adapt, to find humor in tense situations, to draw strength from adversity. It was all on full display. Just as they were about to leave the habitat and begin their hunt, an alert chimed on Dr. Xylara's communication device. Her scales paled as she read the message. "What is it?" Sarah asked, noticing the alien's distress. Dr. Xylara looked up, her 4 eyes filled with worry. "The escaped specimen. It's not just any creature. It's a void leech, a being capable of absorbing energy on a massive scale. If it reaches the station's power core." "Let me guess," Mike interjected, his voice grim. "Boom?" Dr. Xylara nodded solemnly. "A blast that could tear a hole in the fabric of space-time itself." A heavy silence fell over the group as the true gravity of the situation sank in. This was no longer just about saving the station. The fate of the entire sector, possibly the galaxy, hung in the balance. Sarah and Mike exchanged a look, a silent communication passing between them. Then, with a determination that sent a shiver of awe through the alien scientists, they turned to face Dr. Xylara. "Well," Sarah said, a hint of a smile playing on her lips, "I guess it's time to save the galaxy." Mike nodded, cracking his knuckles dramatically. "Just another Tuesday for us humans, right?" As they prepared to step out into the unknown, facing a threat beyond their wildest imaginations, Dr. Xylara realized that perhaps the most remarkable thing about humans wasn't their physical resilience or their ability to process toxins. It was their indomitable spirit, their ability to face the impossible with a joke and a smile that truly set them apart. And as they ventured forth, aliens and humans united in a common cause, she couldn't help but feel that the galaxy was about to change in ways none of them could predict. The hunt for the Void Leech was on, and with it, a new chapter in the relationship between humanity and the cosmos was about to unfold. Crisis and collaboration. The corridors of Galactic Research Station Zeta-9 had never seemed so ominous. Emergency lights cast an eerie red glow, and the distant sound of alarms created a constant undercurrent of tension. Through this alien landscape strode an unlikely team. 2 humans, a shimmering xenobiologist, a gelatinous assistant, and a handful of the station's top scientific minds. "So, what exactly does this void leech look like?" Mike asked, his eyes darting from shadow to shadow as they moved. Dr. Xylara's scales rippled with unease. "It's difficult to describe. The void leech exists partially out of phase with our reality. You might see it as a shifting darkness, a hole in space where something should be but isn't." Sarah nodded grimly. "Great. We're hunting for living shadows. No problem at all." As they approached the power core sector, the station's AI chimed in through the communication devices. "Warning. Extreme energy fluctuations detected in Sector 9. Void leech presence confirmed." The team exchanged nervous glances. Sector 9 was just ahead, and beyond it lay the station's antimatter reactor, the very heart of Zeta 9. "If that thing reaches the reactor," Dr. Zix chittered anxiously, "the resulting explosion could tear a hole in spacetime large enough to swallow solar systems." Mike cracked his knuckles, a determined glint in his eye. "Well, we can't let that happen, can we? What's the plan, Doc?" Dr. Xylara hesitated, her scales shifting to a thoughtful blue. "Our original strategy was to use a modulated tachyon field to force the void leech back into phase with our reality, making it vulnerable to our containment devices. But with the creature so close to the power core, the risk of triggering a catastrophic reaction is too high." Sarah furrowed her brow, processing the information. "Okay, so we need a way to lure it away from the reactor before we can trap it. Any ideas?" The alien scientists exchanged blank looks, their highly specialized minds struggling to think outside their usual parameters. It was Blob who broke the silence, his gelatinous form rippling with excitement. "What about the humans' music?" he burbled. "The death metal seemed to have a strong effect on us. Perhaps it could influence the void leech as well." Mike's face lit up. "That's brilliant. We could set up speakers throughout the station, create a sort of sonic maze to guide the leech where we want it." Dr. Synapse's brain pulsed with intrigue. Fascinating. The chaotic nature of the music could resonate with the void leech's own unstable quantum state, potentially making it easier to manipulate. As the team worked to implement their unconventional plan, the humans and aliens found themselves falling into an efficient rhythm. Sarah's quick thinking and Mike's technical skills complemented the aliens' advanced knowledge, creating solutions that neither species could have devised alone. They set up a network of speakers throughout the station, each one ready to blast a carefully curated playlist of Earth's most intense metal music. Dr. Xylara couldn't help but marvel at the humans' ability to stay focused and even jovial in the face of such dire circumstances. "I don't understand," she confessed to Sarah as they finished wiring up the last speaker. "How can you remain so calm?" Sarah smiled, giving the alien a reassuring pat on the shoulder, an action that sent a shiver of surprise through Dr. Xylara's scales. "It's not that we're not scared," Sarah explained. "We're terrified. But sometimes humor and hope are the best weapons we have against fear." Before Dr. Xylara could respond, the station shuddered violently. Alarms blared with renewed urgency, and the AI's voice echoed through the corridors. "Critical alert. Void leech approaching antimatter containment chamber. Breach imminent. It's now or never," Mike called out, his hand hovering over the makeshift control panel they had constructed. "Everyone ready?" With a collective nod from the team, Mike hit the switch. Instantly, the station was filled with a cacophony of thunderous drums, screaming guitars, and guttural vocals. The alien scientists winced at the assault on their senses, but kept their focus on the monitoring equipment. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then on the holographic display, they saw it, a writhing mass of darkness, pulling away from the reactor and moving erratically through the station's corridors. "It's working," Dr. Zix exclaimed, his antennae quivering with excitement. "The void leech is following the sonic pathways we've created." The next few minutes were a blur of action. The team raced through the station, adjusting sound levels and recalibrating equipment on the fly. Humans and aliens worked in perfect sync, their earlier misunderstandings forgotten in the heat of the moment. Finally, they'd managed to coral the Void Leech into a reinforced chamber specially prepared for the final phase of their plan. As the creature thrashed against the walls of its sonic prison, Dr. Xylera turned to the humans. "Now comes the most dangerous part," she said, her scales a swirl of worried colors. "We need to reintegrate the Void Leech with our reality and contain it. The energy discharge could be significant." Mike and Sarah exchanged a look, then nodded resolutely. "We've come this far," Sarah said. "Let's finish this." With trembling appendages, Dr. Xylera activated the tachyon emitter. The air in the chamber seemed to warp and twist, reality itself buckling under the strain. The Void Leech's otherworldly shrieks rose to a fever pitch, drowning out even the pounding metal music. Just when it seemed the station might tear itself apart, there was a blinding flash of light and a thunderous boom that shook Zeta-9 to its foundations. Then silence. As the dust settled and emergency systems whirred back to life, the team peered anxiously into the chamber. There, floating serenely in a containment field, was a creature of impossible geometry and mesmerizing beauty. The Void Leech, fully phased into their reality. A cheer went up from the assembled group, aliens and humans alike celebrating their improbable victory. Dr. Xylera found herself swept up in a group hug initiated by the exuberant Mike, an experience that was both alien and oddly comforting. As the initial euphoria subsided, the full impact of what they had accomplished began to sink in. They had faced an interdimensional threat, combining the best of human ingenuity and alien technology to save not just the station, but potentially the entire sector. Dr. Xylera looked at the humans with new eyes, her scales shimmering with a mix of awe and gratitude. "I believe," she said softly, "that we have much to learn from each other." Sarah grinned, throwing an arm around the alien scientist's shoulders. "Oh, Doc, this is just the beginning. Wait till we introduce you to pizza and movie nights." As laughter filled the chamber, a new era of cooperation and understanding dawned. The barriers between species began to crumble, replaced by bonds of friendship, forged in the crucible of shared adversity. And somewhere in the vast expanse of the cosmos, the universe itself seemed to hold its breath, aware that a pivotal moment had just transpired, one that would reshape the future of galactic civilization in ways yet unimagined. Copy retreat seated. Revelation and integration. In the weeks following the Void Leech incident, Galactic Research Station Zeta-9 buzzed with an energy unlike anything it had experienced before. The barriers between the human subjects and their alien observers had been irreversibly broken down, leading to a flurry of cultural exchanges, scientific collaborations, and more than a few interspecies misunderstandings. Dr. Xylera found herself at the center of it all, her role evolving from distant observer to active participant in this grand experiment of cooperation. Her office, once a sterile environment of holographic displays and data streams, now sported an eclectic mix of alien artifacts and human knickknacks. A lava lamp, a gift from Mike, bubbled cheerfully next to her quantum probability calculator. "Fascinating," she murmured, her scales shimmering with delight as she watched the colorful blobs rise and fall. Such a simple application of fluid dynamics and thermal convection, yet so captivating. A chime at her door interrupted her reverie. Sarah entered, carrying a steaming mug that filled the room with an enticing aroma. "Thought you might like to try this," Sarah said, offering the mug to Dr. Xylera. "It's called coffee. Pretty much the fuel that keeps human civilization running." Dr. Xylera's 4 eyes blinked in rapid succession as she accepted the mug. "Ah yes, the infamous neurotoxin beverage. I must admit, I've been curious about its effects." With only slight hesitation, she took a sip. Her scales cycled through a rainbow of colors as the caffeine hit her system. "Great galaxies," she exclaimed, her voice an octave higher than usual. "I can feel my synapses firing at twice their normal rate." Sarah laughed, settling into a chair across from the alien scientist. "Yeah, it'll do that. So how are the big wigs taking all of this?" She gestured vaguely, encompassing the station and the unprecedented situation they found themselves in. Dr. Xylara's scales settled into a thoughtful blue. "The Galactic Council is divided. Some see the potential for a new era of cooperation and advancement. Others fear the implications of a species as adaptable and resilient as humanity joining the galactic community." "Let me guess," Sarah said with a wry smile. "They're worried we'll take over." "The concern isn't entirely unfounded," Dr. Xylara admitted. "Your species has demonstrated a remarkable ability to thrive in conditions that would be lethal to most, combined with your problem-solving skills and your—" She paused, searching for the right word. "Your sheer audacity. Well, it's a potent combination." Before Sarah could respond, the door burst open and Mike bounded in, followed by a rather flustered-looking blob. "You guys have got to see this," Mike exclaimed, his eyes shining with excitement. "We've made a breakthrough in the xenobiology lab." Dr. Xylara's antenna perked up. "Oh, what kind of breakthrough?" "We've managed to synthesize a compound that mimics the human liver's ability to process toxins," Blob burbled, his gelatinous form quivering with a mix of excitement and lingering disbelief. "The implications for xenomedicine are staggering." As they made their way to the lab, Dr. Xylara couldn't help but marvel at how quickly the humans had integrated into the station's scientific community. Their unique perspectives and willingness to challenge established norms had led to advancements that would have taken years, if not decades, to achieve otherwise. In the lab, they found Dr. Zix practically dancing with joy, his antennae whirling like propellers. "It works," he chittered, gesturing to a holographic display of molecular structures. "We've successfully applied human biochemistry principles to create a universal antidote." The implications were indeed staggering. A universal antidote could revolutionize space exploration, making it possible for various species to survive in environments that would otherwise be toxic. As the scientists, both human and alien, celebrated their achievement, Dr. Xylara felt a shift in her perspective. She realized that humanity's potential threat to the galactic order was overshadowed by the incredible possibilities their inclusion could bring. Later that evening, as the station's day cycle dimmed to simulate night, the core team gathered in the newly christened Cultural Exchange Lounge, a room that blended alien architecture with human comfort, complete with sofas, a replicator programmed with foods from across the galaxy, and a large view screen. "I've made a decision," Dr. Xylara announced, her scales a confident gold. "I'm going to recommend to the Galactic Council that we officially welcome humanity into the galactic community." A cheer went up from the assembled group. Mike raised a glass of synthesized beer. "To new friendships and a galaxy of possibilities." As they toasted, Dr. Synapse's brain pulsed with a thought. But how will we introduce humanity to the rest of the galaxy? The culture shock on both sides could be severe. Sarah leaned forward, a mischievous glint in her eye. "I have an idea about that. Ever heard of cultural attaches?" And so a plan was born. Sarah and Mike would become humanity's first official representatives to the galactic community. They would travel to different worlds, sharing human culture and learning about alien societies, paving the way for greater understanding and cooperation. In the months that followed, the station became a hub of preparation for humanity's galactic debut. Language lessons, diplomatic training, and crash courses in xenobiology became the norm. The aliens, in turn, immersed themselves in human culture, literature, and history. On the eve of their departure for the Galactic Council, Sarah and Mike stood with Dr. Xylara in the station's observation dome, gazing out at the star-studded expanse of space. "It's funny," Sarah mused, her voice soft with wonder. "We came here as subjects in an experiment. Now we're leaving as ambassadors for our entire species." Dr. Xylara's scales shimmered with a warm, affectionate pink. You've certainly turned our galaxy upside down. But I believe it's for the better. Your human perspective, your adaptability, your inexhaustible curiosity. These are gifts that will enrich us all." Mike grinned, throwing an arm around both Sarah and Dr. Xylara. "Just wait till we introduce the Council to pizza and movie nights. Galactic unity through pepperoni and sci-fi flicks." As laughter filled the dome, Dr. Xylara felt a sense of profound optimism. The journey ahead would not be easy. There would be misunderstandings, conflicts, and challenges yet unimagined. But as she looked at her human friends, she knew that together they could face anything the universe might throw at them. The stars seemed to twinkle a little brighter that night, as if the cosmos itself was celebrating the dawn of a new era. Humanity was about to take its first steps into a larger universe, and the galaxy would never be the same again. As the story draws to a close, we're left with a sense of endless possibility. The alliance between humans and aliens, forged through crisis and strengthened by shared discovery, stands poised to usher in a new age of galactic cooperation. It's a testament to the power of diversity, the strength found in embracing our differences, and the incredible potential that lies in collaboration across the stars. In the end, it wasn't just the humans who proved their worth to the galaxy. It was the very act of coming together, of bridging the vast gulfs of biology and culture, that revealed the true strength of both humanity and their new alien allies. As Sarah, Mike, and Dr. Xylara prepare to face the Galactic Council, they carry with them the hope for a future where the boundaries between species fade away, replaced by bonds of friendship, understanding, and shared adventure. And so, our tale of why alien scientists panicked after watching a Deathworlder drink poison and walk away concludes, not with an ending, but with a new beginning. A beginning that promises a future filled with discovery, challenges, and the endless wonder of a universe explored together.